The Future Sport Podcast is brought to you by 3Advance, developers of sports tech apps that are AI-powered and UX-focused. So if you're looking to create some apps for your startup or your sports biz calls for some artificial or business intelligence, you should check out 3Advance. They're incredible. Go to 3advance.com. That's the number 3advance.com.
Empire.
The virtual world, it's ready to entertain all of us.
Since all of these guys that are in the Cup Series now, they've grown up using our software. So it wasn't that big of a leap, and it certainly wasn't a big ask to have these guys come over and do this race because they were already here.
That's Steve Myers, executive producer for the NASCAR Sim iRacing program. And the test drive on the wide platform of Fox was met with a lot of happy quarantined fans. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. Steve Myers and his team have been working on building the iRacing platform for 30 plus years, and you'll hear about the ramp up to get a sim race on Fox TV recently, and why so many pro drivers wanted to be part of that. And while it is hard to believe that virtual driving could truly feel like the real life version of actual race car driving, drone racing is one of the new emerging spaces in competitive sports that can transform itself from its virtual home and, of course, live racing circuits. Drone Racing League CEO Nicholas Horbaczewski will join us to promote how to become part of their world, real and online. But first, the future is now. When sports comes back, and we assume that they will one day, there's an opportunity here for the network providers and all the content creators to do things differently, which had already been happening in the world of esports. And it's an experience that may change traditional sports as well. Sarah Needleman from the Wall Street Journal wrote a piece called "The Future of Everything. Traditional Sports Look to Gamers to Reshape the Viewer's Experience." Hey, Sarah, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
I know it is weird to talk about this with no sports. So I wonder, just in general, how do you feel about a world with no sports right now?
Oh, it is quite depressing. My husband is very bored.
No kidding. We all are.
And I get more access to the TV, so slight silver lining there.
Yeah, carte blanche for whatever you want these days. Let's talk about your piece here for a moment. What did you learn about how the gamers are interacting with sports and how that could change the way we watch traditional sports?
Sure. Well, video game enthusiasts use live streaming a lot to watch esports competitions, or even just watch people play video games casually. And while they watch those live streams, they're constantly chatting with each other in chat boxes that are literally baked right into the stream. It's not like a separate application. And sometimes they're chatting not just with each other, but also the digital athletes. If they're practicing, if they're not in the middle of a competition, sometimes the gamers will send a message to the athlete and they'll respond back live on the air. And we can expect something like that to happen in the future with traditional sports, whereas the chats will be chat technology will be baked into these live streams, and there may be opportunities to chat with the commentators or the coaches or the athletes themselves. It may seem strange, but in esports, or at least in video gaming, watching broadcasts on a smartphone or a laptop is very, very common. I know we mostly watch traditional sports on a big screen TV sitting back on our couches, but younger viewers have different habits, and that's one of them that we're seeing in the gaming space.
You know, it hasn't merged yet with the big providers like ESPN or CBS, where they're showing the traditional, massively popular American sports, but everybody is on their second screen, their phone, whether it's via Twitter or in some way. So these things have always at least coexisted in recent years. I do wonder if you think that these big network providers are flexible like a Twitch to understand how to incorporate the two things.
That's definitely what the broadcasters are looking at that. They're working with tech companies that are trying to build those sort of features into traditional sports broadcasts online. They're working with the leagues. There's definitely a lot of interest in it. And so instead of having these multiple devices, like you mentioned, it would all sort of be baked into one. And there's a lot of more opportunities beyond that. You could have real-time polls. So everybody tuned in live can guess as to what's going to happen, choose from a menu of, say, 4 options. And then however many you get right, you might have your name up on a leaderboard. You might win some prizes that either virtual or real that could be sent to you. So there are a lot of potential opportunities there that you can see right now happening in video game streams that could happen in traditional sports.
You know, it's interesting, like ESPN and others as well have hired a lot of influencers, some that are from that space and others who just have active accounts on Instagram or other places. And I think the idea there is if they bring them over to SportsCenter or traditional shows, they'll bring an audience with them. But I think the discussion we're having is that's not what's going to happen. The idea is ESPN needs to go to those other places.
Well, not necessarily. It is possible that ESPN could come up with its own streaming platform. I mean, it already has some sort of streaming opportunities to begin with. And such are other networks. So they're already dabbling in the streaming space. They have some apps that you can watch certain games on. It's just that over time we expect that linear television will probably become the minority of way to view anything. And once just about every form of content is streamed live over the internet, that creates opportunities for people to communicate through chat and other means that just isn't the norm right now. But we're already seeing it in small drips and drabs and in traditional sports, and we're seeing it for sure in esports. So it's only a matter of time before everybody comes together to make it work. But yes, there's got to be deal making among the teams, among the leagues, and among the broadcasters to make all this happen.
We've talked to a lot of VR developers who I think a few years ago thought it would be the gold rush of this is what content was going to look like, that everybody would have headsets and everybody would be sitting courtside or whatever, and that's how they would interact. And I know you touched on it on your piece too. Where do you think VR is going right now with sports?
So VR is definitely something that the leagues, the teams, the broadcasters are all looking into. The problem with it is that right now the headsets are very expensive and they're fairly clunky. But just like with any kind of technology, remember how mobile phones were back in the day? They were these big, giant, funny-looking rectangular boxes. Just like those have gone away, now we have these nice little lightweight things in our pockets. Over time, you can imagine the same thing is going to happen with VR. And once it gets to a point that the headsets are maybe as light as a pair of glasses and they're all wireless and the technology is excellent and the internet connectivity is more robust than it is today, you can imagine that the leagues will work with the tech companies to broadcast games in VR. And VR will be just like any other device. So you could watch it through your laptop, you could watch it with your phone, or you strap on a VR headset. Only with VR, the experience is really wild because you're fully immersed. And you can actually see games. There's essentially infinite space in VR. So you could be sitting in the front row. There's no tickets will be sold out. There's room for everybody. And it's really neat if you experience it. It's pretty wild.
The piece is called Traditional Sports Are Looking to Gamers to Reshape the Viewer's Experience. It's the future of everything. Sarah Needleman writes for the Wall Street Journal. Thanks for joining us, Sarah.
My pleasure.
Up next, Steve Myers, executive producer of iRacing, on the Fox TV hit that used his platform. This is the Future Sport Podcast. Well, we all need something to do. On lockdown, there is an unprecedented outbreak that has shut down a lot of professional sports and, of course, daily life. NASCAR has a solution for this with their real races on hiatus for now. And Steve Myers from the iRacing platform, their executive producer, joins us now. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Hey, Bram, how you doing? I'm doing great.
I hope you're holding up. Hope your family's holding up. Hope everybody is safe out there with you.
Thanks. I hope as well with you.
Let's talk a little bit about what you guys are doing. Clearly, these are unprecedented times. We should be in the middle of the NASCAR season, but you guys have come up with a solution with the iRacing platform. What are you doing with the drivers?
So it's very exciting. And I should preface that with, it's a terrible time that, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are suffering right now that, I don't want to make light of that, but we've been given an opportunity here with the entire sports world shutting down that auto racing and being able to move to the virtual space is the last thing standing. And so we're very excited to be able to work with NASCAR and the stars of their series to be able to put on a race at 1:30 on Sunday on Fox Sports 1 and provide, people 90 minutes to 2 hours of entertainment, listening to the guys which should have been making the call at Homestead this weekend with Jeff Gordon and Larry Mack and Mike Joy. So we're hoping that not only will we give some people a chance to take a break from the madness of the world, but also learn about what iRacing is and how you make the most authentic racing simulation in the world.
I had the opportunity to play around with it when I was invited out to the race in Sonoma last year, and I got to use one of the big chairs and everything. So I saw like the high-end version of the whole thing. If you want to share with people, what is iRacing about? Can you kind of explain what the platform is?
Sure. So it's super easy. Literally, you go to our website at www.iracing.com and you sign up for a membership and you download the software right there on your PC. And within 15 minutes, you're online racing against people from all over the world. All you really need is a steering wheel and pedal set, which you can pick up for less than $300 at Best Buy or any electronic retailer. And you plug it into your computer, you download the software, and you're racing. And you start out racing in lower powered cars, and you prove yourself to be a safe driver, and you graduate up to the higher levels of racing, ultimately getting up to being able to drive NASCAR Cup cars, which the guys will be driving on Sunday and the same on TV.
Are the drivers, have they been active in working with you to be involved in the content curation up until this point?
So what's really interesting about our product is that, we've been a business that's been around for, between two different companies, 30 years. And so we've been making these racing simulation software packages since all of these guys that are in the Cup Series now, they've grown up using our software. And so when this, the sports world shut down, it wasn't that big of a leap, and it certainly wasn't a big ask to have these guys come over and do this race because they were already here. They've already been driving the sim for years, and they're already big advocates. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has been a huge advocate of sim racing for 20 years now. And, so these guys are already using the software. So, I will say that there's going to be a handful of guys that are probably the first, or this week will be the first time that they've used the sim. And so, I hope people's expectations will be like, yes, there's going to be some mistakes made by some of these guys because sim racing is hard. There's a reason why you don't take somebody off the street and throw them into a NASCAR Cup car, for turn laps in a race, just off the street. So, you have to expect that, when you create an authentic racing simulation, that it's going to be hard to drive a Cup car in the sim. So, but I think it's going to be fun for everyone to watch that as well. I think the whole point of this is to have fun and let the community kind of see the stars and interact with a product that closely mimics what they would have been doing in the first place.
I can echo this because I got to play around with it, and I don't even think I made a lap. Like this is not a game like that you would get in Dave and Buster's. Like this is for real, and you actually need to practice it to do this.
Yeah, it is amazing, and I tell you, so we have a esports series that we run on Tuesday nights, every other Tuesday night, where the best 40 sim racers in the world compete in the NASCAR world. And these guys just did a race on Tuesday night at Homestead, the same place where we're doing the race on Sunday. And you watch them and you go, they make it look easy. And so it's just amazing to me that to be at that level, those guys are putting 40, 50 hours of practice in a week to prepare for those races. And so it is really, really hard to be good at it. But at the same time, it's fun. I think that's why we have a successful business, is that, that it is a fun product to get in and race with other people, and people enjoy it.
Has it become officially a substitute for training for the drivers themselves that are on the course? The young driver's name is escaping me now, that I know that basically trained his way into NASCAR using sim and not being on tracks, and his name is escaping me right now.
William Byron.
Yes.
Yep,
yeah.
A great story. Yeah.
Are others who have been in racing, have they kind of substituted on-track practice for sim racing?
So, I will say right now, that's the only thing people can do. They don't actually, the NASCAR just put out a bulletin that they weren't even allowing the teams to go to the manufacturer simulators. And they actually had fine print that said that iRacing was excluded. You could still use iRacing. But yes, this is the world where the world is going. You can't go to a sporting goods store and buy a race car to go use in your backyard. Every other sport, you can pretty much practice those games in your driveway or your front yard. You can't do that with racing. So this is kind of the only way that race car drivers can practice, when they're not at the track.
Can you take me through the tech a little bit? You said you guys have been creating this for a very long time. I'm sure initially it felt more like a video game. Now it's an actual simulation where you're trying to get the conditions of a NASCAR race as close as possible. Could you kind of, take me through what the process has been to get it to this point?
Well, so this is from day one. We have had the company, like our mission statement was creating authentic racing simulation. Tried to make it an arcade game or a video game. So our philosophy has always been try to make it as real as possible, because we figure if the race car drivers think it's accurate and they enjoy doing it, everyone else will follow along. They will enjoy it as well, and it has absolutely been true. We laser scan the racetrack, so they're digitally perfect. Every bump, every tree, every curb, every wall, every building is exactly where it's supposed to be. It's the cars. We work with the manufacturers and the race teams to make them digitally perfect. We get reams and reams and reams of data from the teams to be able to recreate these cars so they're perfect. We even take tires and we'll send them out for chemical analysis so we can figure out the compositions of them so that we can create the tire model with the right properties of the tires. We go to the wind tunnel tests. We've gone to CalSpan. We do fluid dynamic work with Aero, CFD work. We literally are at the point now where we're starting to measure the friction levels of the surfaces so that we can get those right. So we really go to as far as we possibly can to replicate these environments in these cars as perfectly as we can.
All right, I'll let you go with this. For those who are going to tune in and watch this, obviously we're all looking for some simulation of live sports. It's a big void in our lives right now. What can fans expect to see in how this will be presented to them?
It's going to be a full broadcast, Fox broadcast, like you would see any other race weekend. And the only difference will be is that the racing is coming from a race server up here in Massachusetts that is being streamed down to the Charlotte Fox broadcast studio. And, Larry Mack and Mike Joy and Jeff Gordon are going to be calling the race. And the same stars that you see in the real world will be in the race. Denny Hamlin, Dale Jr., well, he's coming out of retirement for this. Bobby Labonte came out of retirement for this. We have Brad Keselowski, William Byron, Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, everyone when you think of, even Clint Boyer is going to participate. He's going to be the in-race reporter. He's going to be in the studio racing and also being part of the broadcast team. So it's going to be a really great show. Everyone should tune in at 1:30 on Sunday on FS1.
It's really cool, and listen, we really appreciate the creativity. I think we all need a break here, and I'm happy to see that you guys are thinking ahead for everybody out there to give us a break from what's going on in the real world. Steve Myers is the executive producer at iRacing. Thanks so much for joining us, Steve.
Thanks, Brent.
Up next, CEO Nicholas Horbaczewski on another way to compete while in quarantine through his drone racing league. This is the Future Sport Podcast. The Future Sport Podcast is brought to you by 3Advance. So let's take a moment to thank our friends at 3Advance. These guys are ranked one of the nation's top app developers. Their user experience and cloud expertise has helped grow a bunch of sports tech startups, including Team Builder, T-Box Tour, and In-Game Fantasy. So if you're looking for a development partner to bring your future sport tech to life, look these guys up. Go to 3advance.com. They're the team to make it happen, and advance you will. That's the number 3advance.com, and tell them Future Sport sent you. Well, we are in extremely unusual times on planet Earth. Sports have been shut down, and in many different ways, there are a lot of different groups that are trying to find new, interesting, and unique opportunities for the fans and the non-fans to come into their tent and learn about their wares. Nicholas Horbaczewski is the CEO and founder of the Drone Racing League, and there's an opportunity here, Nicholas. Thanks for joining us. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks, yeah.
Tell me about what's going on right now and how you kind of view the opportunity that is presented to introduce the Drone Racing League to those who are social distancing.
Sure. I mean, obviously, we're in very unique times, and there's a lot of challenges out in the world for a lot of different industries and individuals, and obviously a lot of lifestyle changes going on. But one thing that's definitely happening, a lot of people are being asked to stay home and wait this out. And I think in that time, we still need a lot of things. We still need the kind of uplifting and exciting entertainment that sports brings. We need education. You have tons of students being kept out of school and asked to stay home and want to continue the education process. So it's a challenging time, it's a complicated time, but it's an interesting time, especially for companies like ours that have the opportunity to bring content to fans while they're at home.
I saw that you guys are introducing drone racing in terms of education as well, trying to use it in STEM programs. Can you kind of talk about that initiative in general, and then specifically now with so many kids out of school, the opportunity that is there to introduce the science behind what you all are doing?
Definitely. So DRL has leaned into STEM education from its earlier days. So typically around our large live events, we do our races, we do STEM educational programs in local schools. Now, these are in-classroom programs. We're working with students, teaching them about the technology behind drone racing, teaching them about robotics and engineering, and they're incredible programs. I've been part of them myself. It's amazing to be able to go into a school, work with students, help them build a drone, help them understand the technology behind it. It gets them excited about science and technology. You're obviously wrapping up in the fun, exciting sport of drone racing. So it adds an entertainment element that really engages students. And when all of this started to happen, we took a step back and said, what can we be doing? And at the same time, started having educators reach out saying, look, I want to continue STEM education. Students are at home, but I want them to keep learning. And so we launched DRL Academy, which is basically taking the STEM education program we've done for a while and turning it into an online learning program that can be distributed broadly. It continues to give students a chance to access educational content about science, technology, and engineering material while continuing to, wrap it up in drone racing in a way that's fun for the students.
I know this is a vague question, but Can you kind of generally talk about the technology from when you started working in drones to where they specifically are now? How much has the tech increased in the innovation around drones?
So drone technology has made, incredible advances over the last few years generally, and I think we're really on the cusp of drones being more integrated in daily life as a lot of technological barriers are overcome. Specifically in the world of racing, when I started DRL, drone racing had been around for several years. As mentioned, it stayed sort of an underground sport, and it hadn't achieved mainstream awareness. And since I thought the sport was so interesting, I wasn't sure why that was. And I very quickly discovered that it was a technology problem. The technology you need to do a professional racing event in front of a large live audience, broadcast globally, is just fundamentally different than the sort of technology that people were using in these sort of amateur homemade settings. So really what Drone Racing League did when I started was we focused on building an industrialized stack of technology. And a lot of technology goes into a drone race. It's not only just the drones themselves, it's the radio systems that control the drones, it's the timing and scoring systems you need to track those drones in the air, it's the fleet management system you need to be able to keep track of 600 drones that are being used in a drone racing event. And we've had to build all that technology from the ground up. I think sometimes DRL is more of a technology company than anything else. More than half our team are engineers focused specifically on developing this technology. And so over the last 5 years, we've gone from this technology really not existing to be able to use it in a professional sport.
Are competitors allowed to bring their own devices and drones, their own creations to this? Is there a standardized version of what is allowed to be raced?
No, so every pilot in the drone racing races an identical drone. It's called the Racer 4. It's a drone we have designed from the ground up. We design these drones, we build these drones. And it has a couple of benefits. One, it creates a completely level playing field. Meaning when you watch one of our races and you see a pilot win, you know that they won because of pilot skill, not because of a technology difference. And the other thing is, as I mentioned, the technology to do this is reasonably complex. What we're building are very advanced, highly specialized drones. Sometimes they're sort of like the Formula One car of drones. And when you want to see people racing and they're racing at a professional level, you want people to drive the Formula One cars, not just homemade drones that they cobble together themselves. So it serves a couple different functions, but it's very cool. It also means that behind the scenes at DRL, if you come and visit our offices, we have an entire floor dedicated to the design and manufacture of these very high performance drones.
It's interesting. We had a tour with NASCAR last summer, and obviously the specs on the cars are monitored extremely, extremely closely, and there's variances here and there. But everyone's trying to figure out a way to be faster, to be better, and it's minor alterations. If everything is on a level playing field, what separates the competitors from one another?
Well, usually it's pilot skill. I mean, it's about the ability to fly the things. These drones are going to 90 miles an hour through complex three-dimensional courses, passing through narrow gates and obstacles. It's really incredible. I mean, it's like a scene out of Star Wars. They're weaving things through space. It takes a tremendous amount of skill to fly these drones at all, let alone at incredibly high speeds in a competitive race environment. So the pilots are making a lot of choices to keep the drones in the air, when to pass, when to hold back, how hard to push it going into a turn. So, over the course of a race, they're making hundreds of choices to determine whether they win or lose. And a pilot that can do that consistently is the one that's going to win. And it's very exciting. We've had world championships over the course of the season come down to hundredths of a second in terms of who finishes first and who finishes second.
Let's talk about what's happening in the here and now, which is the 2020 Drone Racing League Sim Tryouts, which is a player-to-pilot esports tournament. And the winner is actually going to get a contract on your tour and be able to compete in the Drone Racing League. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there?
Yeah, every year we run a player-to-pilot tournament. So one of the unique things about drone racing is it sits on this blurry line between the digital and the real. It's the only sport I've ever encountered that you can train and learn to compete in it in simulation. So we've built this very advanced simulator that mimics real life. And when you can play it on a computer, you can download it on Steam. And when you learn to fly on the simulator, you're learning the exact skills you need to fly in real life. And so what that means is that once a year we run this tournament. We open up to everybody in the world. They can download the sim. They can learn to fly a racing drone. They can start competing. And over the course of several weeks, we run a competition to find the best pilot on the simulator. And when they win that tournament, they actually get a contract to become a professional pilot in the league and come race real drones. So it's pretty wild. It's pretty unique, this idea that you could, download a game on your computer and start playing, and then weeks later you earn a professional contract to be out playing that sport in real life. It's actual drones flying through incredible spaces, at 90 plus miles an hour.
Do you need any equipment? If I was to download the game and play it with my son, do I need any specific equipment for it?
You just need a computer, and then you need any two joystick controller, so a gaming controller, an Xbox controller, a PlayStation controller, anything you can link up in your computer to play.
And how do I download the game itself?
Sure, you go to Steam. So you go to the Steam store and search for the Drone Racing League, and you'll see the Drone Racing League simulator. Just download it and start playing.
I'll let you go with this. We talk to a lot of people in esports, obviously. It is really an emerging, as you know, arena in all of sports and content production. Where do you see drone racing fitting into that model where the popularity of esports at all different levels with all different types of gaming, where do you see drone racing fitting into this surge of interest in esports?
What I love about drone racing is that we don't quite fit into any box. We're not strictly an esport, but we're not strictly a real life sport either. We sort of get to borrow the best of all worlds. So you take something like our sim track going on now. This is some degree an esport competition, right? This is based on a video game. You get to play it, but then you get to go fly real drones. So you come to one of our live races. You sit there and see real drones flying in real courses, and it's a very immersive event. So we don't fit nicely into any box, but we get to benefit from a lot of them. I mean, you look at what's going on with esports. One of the reasons esports work so well is it's so scalable. And that's what you want for a participatory sport. I mean, something like what we're doing for our sim tryout, where truly people around the globe are competing in this from the comfort of their own home. That's incredible. There's no live sport you can do that with and have the person who emerges from it be qualified to go out and compete in the real world. So that's a huge benefit, that scalability, accessibility to it. But then you go to our where that winner goes, and they become a pilot league. Suddenly you're sitting in an arena. We did a race last year at Chase Field in Phoenix. Yeah, over 4,200 fans. They're sitting there cheering, drones flying around, crashing into obstacles, exploding into a million pieces. You're giving people a very unique real-life experience that really draws in an audience. That's much more like a traditional sport. And so we get the benefits of both.
It's really cool. And being stuck inside and looking for new things to do with my kids right now, it is something that I appreciate is available to me. Nicholas Horbaczewski is the CEO and the founder of the Drone Racing League. Thank you so much for joining us, Nicholas.
Thank you.
That will do it for us this week. Remember, we want to hear from you about how you are creating under these unusual circumstances. You can email me directly at bram@ampiremedia.com, BRAM@Ampire, AMPIRE media.com. And of course, follow Future Sport, FUTRSPRT on all of the social media platforms. As always, the future is now. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. The Future Sport Podcast is brought to you by 3Advance, developers of sports tech apps that are AI-powered and UX-focused. So if you're looking to create some apps for your startup or your sports biz calls for some artificial or business intelligence, you should check out 3Advance. They're incredible. Go to 3advance.com. That's the number 3advance.com.